This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. President Joe Biden announces $81 billion in aid to help schools reopen this spring and send students back to the classroom. An Education Department survey shows 1 in 4 elementary and middle schools are not open for in-person or hybrid learning. Other findings include schools in the South and Midwest opened the most quickly. Rural schools opened ahead of cities and suburbs. There's still more remote learning among schools with more racial minorities. It's not clear whether that's by choice or not. Social distancing guidelines are now 3 feet instead of 6 feet for schools. The American Federation of Teachers is pushing back, saying it questions the science on that. Jonathan Butcher, an education expert with the Heritage Foundation, joins us now with more on this. Jonathan, your thoughts on the president's plan, $81 billion.
Well, they had a national reopening summit today with a number of panels of educators talking about how to get schools open. And they said that with 45% of elementary and middle schools already open to in-person learning, that is a good start. Well, unfortunately, we've almost lost this entire school year. It's funny to be talking about just starting now when we're effectively at the end of March. And we already lost a quarter of the school year last year.
Yeah, well, so what do you think about the money being spent? I mean, $81 billion, is that too much? Is it not enough?
It's a huge sum, especially considering what the feds contribute towards K-12 learning annually anyway, because they only add about 10% or less of what the total budgets for schools are. So this is a huge amount of money. Not only that, the money is meant to be used for the most part after this year. They've essentially paced it out to be adding to federal contributions to school budgets for the next 7 years almost. If it was so urgent for schools to have the money right now, then why are they waiting for several years for schools to get these resources if opening right now is the priority?
So what is the most important issue or concern for students in America right now related to their education?
Well, I think it's those students who have been forced into virtual learning situations that they didn't choose on their own, which a year ago might have been just about everyone. But what's gone on in the past year is that most Catholic schools, many private schools, perhaps as many as 60%, have been open to in-person learning for this school year. And so what you've done is you've set students in a situation where they may not learn best. And so now they're falling behind their peers. And the federal government is trying to answer by just injecting more money into the system over a long period of time while they are still patiently waiting for public schools to figure out a way to get their doors open.
So there's still more remote learning among schools with more racial minorities. Why do you think that is?
Well, some of this is in the districts where you have high concentrations of minority students, right? Large urban areas like Los Angeles and Chicago, Philadelphia. And these happen to also be the centers where teacher unions have significant political power. And they have been flexing that muscle over the past several months, especially. They held out in Chicago and kept teachers from returning in person until just recently. There's still no plan for high school teachers to go back. The same thing has played out in Philadelphia as well. So I think that unions have used this opportunity to show how much power they have, especially when it comes to the decisions from local district officials.
Jonathan, do you think this pandemic will permanently alter public education as we know it?
Well, I think the parents' frustration with waiting for an answer from districts as they watch private schools and many families turn to homeschools, I think that's going to spill over into more families choosing to educate their children at home. There are surveys that indicate that many more families are doing that already. I also think that families are taking things into their own hands and forming their own learning pods. One estimate has as many as 3 million children in pods this year. So I think it's opened parents' eyes that this is something that they can make the best decision for their students, and they can figure out a way to make this work when school districts are still waiting and dragging their feet to hear some answer from above them.
Yeah, so frustrating. Jonathan Butcher with the Heritage Foundation, thanks so much for your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, we are learning more about the victims of that mass shooting in Colorado yesterday. As Dale Hurd reports, their family and friends are sharing their stories.
Outside the King Soopers grocery store in Boulder, a memorial is growing by the hour as this community tries to deal with the tragedy and multiple families prepare to lay the victims of Monday's mass shooting to rest. 61-year-old Kevin Mahoney had just walked his daughter down the wedding aisle last summer and was about to become a grandfather. 51-year-old Terry Leaker had worked at the King Soopers grocery store for 31 years. 20-year-old Denny Stong had dreamed of becoming an airline pilot. 25-year-old Ricky Oles was a manager at the grocery store.
She's giggly and bubbly and just you couldn't be sad around her.
Her Aunt Lori watched the incident unfold in real time on a live stream.
We're watching it on my phone as the police are just getting there. And, we're horrified.
59-year-old Susan Fountain was known as a kind and talented actress. 62-year-old Lynn Murray was a retired mother of two. 65-year-old Jody Waters was a grandmother who worked in a clothing boutique. A cousin of 49-year-old Trelona Bartkowiak said she was the backbone of her family. Officer Eric Talley was an 11-year veteran with the Boulder Police Department. He rushed to the scene of the shooting and died from a gunshot to the head.
This officer had 7 children, ages 5 to 18. I just had that officer's whole family in my office 2 weeks ago to give him an award.
My son gave his life to save those people at the King Soopers. He gave it all, and the hate still continues.
Talley's police cruiser parked outside the police station was draped in flowers as a memorial. Also dead, 23-year-old Nevin Stanisic, whose family fled the war in Bosnia and was described as a man of faith. The shooter has been identified as Syrian-born Ahmad al-Issa. Posts from his now-deleted Facebook page show he hated Donald Trump and believed Trump's supporters had hacked his phone. However, there are reports he's not told police why he started killing people. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
So sad. Well, President Biden and Democrats are calling for more gun control laws following this shooting. One idea that could get bipartisan support is extreme risk laws, where family members and friends could report people they're concerned about owning a firearm. Meanwhile, issues like D.C. statehood and the Equality Act are now before Congress, but there's no consensus, and that's something Democratic Senator Joe Manchin hopes to see change.
We've got to bring our country together. We really do. I'm not willing to go into reconciliation until we at least give bipartisanship or get working together or allow the Senate to do its job. Just by assuming that, hey, they'll never work with us. That's the other side. Right. This is tribal.
An area of great concern in the Senate is the future of the filibuster. Senator James Lankford, a Republican from Oklahoma, told the 700 Club's Pat Robertson that it's essential to the function and purpose of the Senate and should not be removed by the Democrats.
The filibuster is set up to make sure the minority voices always have a voice in America, and it's unique to the Senate. The House is a simple majority vote. Of course, the White House, everyone in the agencies do what the president asks them to do. In the Supreme Court, it's a majority vote. But in the Senate, both sides have to be able to have some cooperation together. You have to get 3/5 of the Senate, which is 60 votes, to be able to start debate on an issue or to be able to stop debate on an issue. That forces the bipartisan cooperation to make sure everyone in America is heard. Democrats will talk publicly about they want minority voices to be heard, but in the Senate, they're literally working to be able to stop the minority in the Senate from ever being heard. So the goal of this is a place that slows things down in the Senate, so we talk about it to make sure that we're dealing with the common ground issues that really define America.
And moving overseas now, the vote count is still underway in Israel. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the final results will determine if Israel will have a stable government or continue its political gridlock and have yet another election.
With nearly 90% of the votes counted, it seems both the anti-Netanyahu bloc and the pro-Netanyahu coalition fall short of the needed 61 seats to form a government. The potential kingmaker to emerge is the Islamist Ra'am Party. With at least 5 seats in the next Knesset, its leader, Mansour Abbas, could support either the bloc of parties pledged to oppose Netanyahu or join Netanyahu's potential coalition. He said he would join the group that pledges more support for Israeli Arabs. With this new development, some are wondering if Gideon Sa'ar, who broke away from Likud to form his own party, would support Netanyahu, even though he pledged he would never serve in a Netanyahu government. That would put Netanyahu over the 61 seats to form a coalition. On Tuesday night, the immediate exit polls showed Prime Minister Netanyahu with a slim possibility to form a right-wing government. In order to form a government, Netanyahu will need the support of Naftali Bennett and his Yamina party. Bennett did not commit to serving with Netanyahu yet, but to hold right-wing values. On the left, Yair Lapid's party was the big winner. He led the bloc of parties who want to topple Netanyahu. Those parties have just under 61 seats necessary to form a government. 10 smaller parties split the remainder of the seats in parliament. They range from secular left-wing parties, Arab parties, and the ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties. Even with these divided results, some say the country won't tolerate a fifth election.
I think that likely we're not going to have a fifth election. I think there is a lot of cynicism. We've had a Groundhog Day. It's kind of happening again. I think the country and, frankly, the political leaders want to have a certain amount of stability. Frankly, if we're trying to put together the country itself wanting to function.
The next several days will be critical. Because of the COVID pandemic, more absentee ballots have been cast, and those votes are being counted. They could shift the delicate balance of power one way or the other. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Coming up, well-known businessman Mike Lindell setting out on a new venture he says will restore free speech in this world of social media. Stay tuned.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back. Christian conservative businessman Mike Lindell, known for the hugely popular MyPillow, has plans for a new venture, an alternative social media website. Our Heather Sells spoke with Lindell about his vision and who he believes will support his efforts.
It's going to be all the influence. It's going to bring back our free speech, where influencers and people that have print, podcast, and TV can say what they can say, actually go talk out there without getting taken down by YouTube.
Are there going to be any parameters about it? Any way that you're going to try and control for content that you would not like?
Well, we're not going to allow it. Most of these are influencers. We're not going to allow pornography and the things you would not allow, but we are certainly going to let people talk about things. You talk about anything the administration's doing, like the borders. So you're going to be able to talk about, actually the platform is called Frank, and Frank means free, forthright, and sincere expression. So we're bringing back our First Amendment right of free speech, and that's what's been suppressed in our country. They're taking away, canceling us out, taking away our First Amendment, and this is going to just get by all that. It's going to get around that, where we don't have to rely on your Apples and your Amazons and your YouTubes and your Googles and your suckabucks from Facebook and all these people that are just completely suppressing us. It's like, it almost feels like we're in a communist country, or there's back in Nazi Germany, when the first thing they take away is your communications, and then they cancel you out, and it's terrible what's going on.
Mike, what kind of response have you been getting as you've been letting the word out about this new site?
Everyone's excited because for me, it's about the people out there that used to be able to speak out and talk about things, whether it was political or whether it was, anything with our lives, and they're getting canceled on these sites. Like, I have friends of mine that lost all their Facebook and all their Twitters and all their YouTube's channels. Well, now they're so excited that they're going to be able to actually speak the truth again, or at least their opinions, and not get canceled out. So, in fact, we're encouraging anyone that comes over to this platform, I'm encouraging them to get canceled on their YouTube. In fact, I'm going to give them a bonus. Here, you get a bonus, because then I know you're speaking out. And everyone's excited. I mean, all the influencers out there, all the podcasters, they've lost their livelihoods. A lot of them have lost their livelihoods, and now they'll get their livelihoods back because the people are going to follow. Everybody's going to come here. I want to just have a place where everybody can talk. And it's not just for, conservatives or just for Christians or whatever. This is for everybody. What I believe that's going on in our country, everybody's seeing it. I think when we get through all this cancel culture, this taking away our First Amendment, we get through all this and get our this election figured out, get these machines out of our country, it's going to be a great uniting, not just politics, but also of all people, where we're going to have the greatest revival in history, and it's going to once again be one nation under God.
I know a lot of people would like to see people in our country coming together again. Let me ask you, without a lot of controls on this website, how do you protect against political extremists coming in and promoting violence?
What we're going to have is on there, most of this is your news, it's already news outlets that are out there. And I don't think there's anybody out there that is promoting violence. I don't believe that now. I see all the cancel culture out there. That's the excuse they're using. If anybody promoted violence in our country, start with my governor of Minnesota back last spring, when he promoted violence by saying, okay, everybody wreck Minneapolis, and our mayor, some of the worst political decisions ever made. No one's going to be on there promoting violence, and you're going to be looking at it. We'll be looking at it, and I just think all of these influencers you already know what contents they have, and it's not like they don't get to come over as an influencer if they're some nut jobs promoting violence.
And that new site, social media site, will be out in the near future. We'll keep you posted and be sure to let you know when it's up. Up next, find out why human rights groups want advertisers to boycott the Winter Olympics in Beijing. Stay tuned.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family, and collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app, a great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
150 human rights groups are asking Airbnb to drop its sponsorship of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. They say the company is glossing over the horrifying human rights issues reported about from China. The human rights advocates are also pushing for other sponsors to boycott the games as well. Chinese leaders say the effort is political and there will not be any human rights issues at the Olympics. CBN News senior international correspondent George Thomas is here with more on the concern of this human rights group. George, an astounding number of groups asking or making these appeals. What's your reaction to this?
Yeah, it's significant. I mean, it comes on the heels of next year's Winter Olympics in Beijing. Incidentally, when the Airbnb joins about 15 other major sponsors of the IOC, giving the IOC close to about $1 billion. The other companies include Coca-Cola, Samsung, Visa, Panasonic, and Intel. So clearly, the heat is on China and Airbnb. These human rights groups, 150 of them, as you mentioned, going after Airbnb to say, listen, you are basically glossing over what has been proven undeniably that China is committing acts of genocide against the Uyghur Muslims of Xinjiang province.
Okay, so all this coming as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken continues to put the heat on China. He was in Brussels today and made some tough comments on China. Fill us in.
Yeah, he was speaking to folks at the NATO headquarters, as you mentioned, in Brussels, speaking to his European allies and warning them, listen, this is not an issue of us, the United States, against China, but made it very clear to NATO allies, to the European Union, that what they face is a China that, in the words of Antony Blinken, continues to impose this economic and security threat on the entire world. And China wants to dominate in a way that is quite contrary to Western democracy. So it was a clear shot across the bow to the European Union to say, listen, this is what we're facing. China is an emerging threat, and we need to take them very seriously.
George, what's Beijing doing to push back against this growing chorus against them?
Well, China's State Council on Information and State Council on Information Office released a report on Wednesday, according to them, detailing America's human rights abuses, going through the issues of, the government's incompetence when it came to handling the coronavirus and the vaccine rollout. Talked about the disorder and triggering political chaos in the midst of all the Black Lives Matters protests and so forth, and the various human rights abuses against ethnic minorities, obviously talking about the various attacks against Asian Americans. But again, the Chinese responded by saying, wait, we're not the only ones dealing with human rights problems. United States, you guys have issues, and these are, they outlined about 1,500 Chinese character word document saying that the United States is also an egregious violator of human rights.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the man tapped to lead the U.S. military's Indo-Pacific Command is sounding the alarm on China's military ambitions in Asia.
Yeah.
What did he have to say?
Yeah, Admiral John Aquilino, who is tapped, as you mentioned, to head up the Indo-Pacific Command, sent a very, very clear warning saying that the Chinese are years away from launching a potential annexation of Taiwan. As you know, Wendy, China sees Taiwan as an extension of their homeland, and they've always had aspirations on retaking China. There is retaking Taiwan. There is growing concern that could happen a lot sooner than we all in the media as well as the experts think. So we're going to be continuing to keep a very close eye on all of this. Again, the heat on China is increasing, not just from the United States, but also from our allies in Europe. Wendy.
All right, very good. George Thomas, we appreciate that so much. Thanks for your time.
Sure.
Coming up next, a touching story of a couple's faithfulness to ministry and each other to the very end. Stay tuned.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come with...
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And finally today, a Florida couple married for almost 67 years and who spent their lives serving in ministry together passed away earlier this month from COVID within minutes of each other. Bill and Esther Ilniski worked hand in hand in the Caribbean and the Middle East, then came back to the U.S., where Bill became a pastor in Florida before retiring just 3 years ago. His wife launched Esther Network International to teach children how to pray. Their daughter Sarah says they were always together, and even though it was hard to lose them both, their being apart was unimaginable. CBN News Middle East reporter Julie Stahl says they were pastors to her mother and told us they were amazing believers with a true pastor's heart, listening to the Lord and caring for the sheep, and they are now together in heaven. That's it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. From all of us here, good day and God bless you.